welcome to Thinking Too Hard About Anime, an episode-by-episode discussion of a beloved animated series. It's a little bit of history, a little bit of analysis, and a lot of over-examining the Japanese cartoons we love so much. I am your co-host, Aaron J. Shelton, and with me is...
Noah Carden.
And today we're continuing our coverage of Cowboy Bebop with session number 2, Stray Dog Strut. The synopsis for this episode is... Spike and Jet go after Abdul Hakim, who's stolen a data dog from a research facility, but they're not the only ones who are after the kidnapped pooch. A lot of mistaken identities, just a very funny episode, especially compared to last week's.
Yeah, I definitely think that Cowboy Bebop, you have like a spectrum of like the super dramatic to the kind of madcap zany, and this is definitely towards the madcap side of the spectrum.
I could actually see someone dropping out of this series after episode 2. Like, wait, it's about a dog and a bunch of animals running loose. What? I thought this was like cool and crime. And
it's a very sudden sort of tonal shift from the end of the last episode.
Before we get into the meat of the discussion, Noah, give us the production notes for this episode.
So this episode was directed by Ikuro Sato, and it was written by Michiko Yokote. We only get really introduced into one like constant new character, and that's Ein. Now, Ein does have a voice actor.
What?
He's actually got 2 voice actors. So all of like his dog sounds, the dog vocalizations and stuff like that were actually done by Jack, who is the producer Kazuhiko Ikiguchi's dog, who's an actual corgi as well. But there are some episodes later on in the series where Ein speaks, air quotes, and that is done by the voice actor Koichi Yamadera. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because it's also Spike's voice actor.
But he hates dogs. He hates animals.
He hates kids and pets.
Mm-hmm.
I think it only really happens in like 1 or 2 episodes. The main one that jumps to mind is the episode preview for the episode Wild Horses, where Ein supposedly speaks.
Again, it's been a hot minute since I've gone through the whole series again. But when you say speak, is it like in Mushroom Samba, where he's talking to the cow, and it's just like bark, 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 subtitled?
The episode preview for Wild Horses, like the crew is like, hey, who hasn't done a preview before? And then Ein starts barking, but they're like, oh, yeah, really? Uh-huh. And then like when the title card for it comes up, you hear him go, Wild Horses! Like in this sort of like... and everybody gets like suddenly like really surprised, like, whoa, did you just talk? But yes, but all of like the barks and growls and stuff like that were actually done by one of the producer's dogs.
Oh. Well, I feel bad now because there's a bit in this episode where he gets smacked and there's a sad dog noise. There's a hurt dog noise. I'm like, I hope that was acting.
I mean, there could always be a little bit of a like, you know, stock sound effects and stuff like that too. But
how are those sound effects obtained?
Oh man,
the entertainment industry.
It's never victimless.
We also have to go back a little bit because somehow we for 2 episodes we didn't talk about the opening and closing themes, which is, I mean, almost heresy in some people's eyes.
They're such an important part of the show, and I think we might be able to be excused for the first episode, for the first session, in that it starts with that prologue as opposed to going immediately into the intro, because the intro is such a grabbing sequence at the start.
The first 3 seconds are just a bunch of horns coming at you, along with the title in black and white just flashing.
I think it's like the definition of like eye-catching.
I'm not too familiar with other anime openings at this time, but I'm pretty sure none of them did anything like this.
You get a lot of like, especially this area like for shonen, you get a lot of just like, hey, we're on an adventure. We're running from one side of the screen to the other. A lot of like blue sky, action, fun kind of things going on.
Where this is, hey, you're not going to see all the characters clearly. Towards the end, you see each character in sort of an action pose and then a close-up still where they show Edwards. You see a bunch of fingers typing on a keyboard, and then you see her upside down. When I first saw this, I'm like, oh, there's going to be an old man in here. That's cool. Because I thought it was like a bald guy with a beard. I didn't see two people kissing. I saw a vase. But like, that's how stylized this opening is. We don't care about introducing all these characters. We just want to get you in the mood for this show.
Faye's outfit in the opening is actually different from her outfit in the rest of the series. She was originally actually supposed to wear like a Chinese dress, like a kipao, and then they kind of realized like that's a little, I don't know, it's a little bland, I guess. So they basically just kind of cut out the midsection and made the skirt into like hot pants. Like when they show like her like full body kind of like shot in the opening, if you pay attention, you can kind of see that she still has that Chinese dress outline on her silhouette.
This opening to me makes sense for this show because we're not following a continuous plot. You know, what are we going to do? See every villain from each separate episode?
Yeah, like it has a very sort of 60s, 70s kind of vibe to it, like just like visually. And like the music, which the song is Tank! Exclamation point by Seatbelts. The vocals at the start are actually by Tim Jensen, who is one of the collaborators with Yoko Kanno on like writing the songs throughout the series. He actually wrote a lot of the lyrics for most of the songs that actually have lyrics in them.
Okay.
So he's the one that actually performs those at the start.
One of the bigger introductions that becomes a mainstay of the show here is Big Shots. Man, I got a lot of thoughts and questions about Big Shots.
Well, first of all, it's for the bounty hunters.
It is a television show with, I would say, no set schedule that comes on to tell all the bounty hunters in the solar system, here are the top bounties. And their pictures and names and other information you may need. There are two aspects of it I want to talk about. One, just the logistics of it within the world of Cowboy Bebop and what that means, where there are enough criminals to support, I think at one point during the episode, they say 300,000 bounty hunters in the solar system. So there are enough criminals to support bounty hunters. To where they like, yeah, of course, hey, we're a network. Of course we'll sponsor a show. Of course we can sell ads on this bounty hunting show. Within the context of the show, it's insane that this is the delivery method for bounties. It's like if there was a TV show specifically for freelance journalists, and it's like, hey, if you can get this interview with this cartel member, Vice will pay you 8 million wulongs. The capitalist hellscape that you alluded to in our first episode. This is a symptom of that.
It's totally the gig economy in space. Like bounty hunting is now just a profession you can have, and there are enough people like running around all over these different planets in the solar system that you can just like. I want to know what the licensing process is for becoming a bounty hunter in Cowboy Bebop. Because can you just like say, hey, I'm a bounty hunter, and then like go capture somebody?
I mean, in real life, I don't think it's that complex. I think a lot of people of a certain age are like, oh, a private detective, that sounds cool and fun. And I think depending on the state, you either need some sort of law enforcement background.
I have looked into both private detective and I've looked into how to get a bounty hunting license because I think you have to become a bail bondsman. In North Carolina, it's like a $200 course over like a week.
For a bail bondsman or a private detective?
For bail bondsman. And for private detective, there's two versions. One where you can carry a gun and one where you can't. And I think if you don't carry a weapon, it's just like a course and you have to pay a fee for a license. But if you want to be able to carry a firearm, you need to have some sort of law enforcement background.
I feel like that's just asking for trouble as a private detective.
Yeah.
You're watching people cheat on other people.
Yeah.
We all know that's what being a detective is, private detective is now.
But this is also, I looked this up like 4 years ago, so I don't remember all of it 100%. It's something
4 years ago.
I got real bored one day because I was also looking up how to become ordained. I just wanted to have like the world's like weirdest suite of like crappy superpowers.
It's a low rent Batman, is what you're trying to do.
I can marry you, and I can be a detective and bounty hunt. Also, I'm a ship captain.
With Spike being a criminal, I imagine the process is not difficult.
No.
I love the two hosts. Do we get names for them?
So you hear one of their names in the next episode, but I don't know if you ever really get their names other than in the credits, but they are Punch and Judy.
Nice.
So those are the stage names. We'll find out later in the series what one of their real names is.
It goes to show the multicultural narrative of the show, where it's like two cowboys. One is like, well, look, here's a hot blonde, and here's an Indian guy. He's from India, maybe.
I always thought Punch was a black gentleman.
Ah, okay.
But okay. So I'll go ahead and spoil this now. His real name is Alfredo.
We'll bring it up again when we find out. It's way late in the series.
It's like towards the end of the series, you find out a little bit more about Punch and Judy, which is really weird to say, but it happens.
And the English version does a good job of that. He has to use cowboy words and Old West words, but he's not putting on the Southern drawl. And that just adds to like this weird, there's a weird charm to it. And I always get excited when it comes on.
Yes.
Because it's this fun bit.
That music, the song that is the backing track to Big Shots is called American Money.
Yes. Oh, that sounds like a David Bowie album.
If you should go and listen to that song by itself because you don't really hear it. If you pay attention, you can kind of hear it, but there's actually vocals to it.
Well, it's like backing vocals, right? It's not lyrics.
It almost sounds like clips from a 1950s like science video that you show to like a school or something, where it's talking about like going to outer space and
you're right.
reaching for the stars and all this other craziness. It's real weird.
Big Shots is so much better than having Jet be like, "Hey, Spike, I got another bounty on the bounty line." It gives exposition to the show. Big Shots coming in at the right moment will like add a twist to the current conflict by giving the crew new information. It's such a wonderful and goofy device to move story along.
And sometimes like they straight up miss it when the show is going over something. Like we'll see in this episode, they watch the show and then they get the call from like the doctor about the guy they were just watching.
Yeah, they get updated info.
Like something I really appreciate about the sort of interface that they have with like the weird computer TV thing is that depending on which side of it you're on, you can actually see bits of the interface like behind whatever somebody's watching. So like way later in the show when we see the pet shop owner watching Big Shots as they're talking about the data dog and all that, you see her from the front watching it and it looks like normal, but then when you see it from the back, you see like just like a window almost on the back side of the screen that looks like the tuner or like the control panel or whatever that would be on like the desktop. So I just think like the way that whole like interface looks is really neat. I was also recently reintroduced to a term. You know, you have like your cyberpunk, you have your steampunk and all this other stuff. Cassette futurism.
my interest is peaked, the highest it can be peaked. So please go on.
It can definitely work very much for like the kind of aesthetic of Cowboy Bebop, but it's like, you know, that future where it's all like tube televisions and like you have to grab like this big like magnetic tape or something like that to put it in. Very sort of like that aliens kind of look. That future that is like the 90s kind of look to things. And I think that can kind of apply to a lot of Cowboy Bebop, maybe sort of like the later aspects of cassette futurism.
Yeah, that's what this is. There's still tapes.
One of the best episodes. Gotta go track down a Betamax player.
And I mean, speaking again about the technology and the mechanical design of everything. So when they go to Mars, they're going to Mars to catch this bounty. The city or settlement that they are going to is inside a crater. And again, they don't explain what's going on. But outside of the crater is just classic red Mars. Inside is like there's greenery. It's a thriving city. Around the edge of the crater is, I guess I'd have to call it an atmosphere generator. And somehow they're able to keep the atmosphere that they're creating within this crater, and the Bebop has to pass through it. And again, it's still the Wild West, which especially works for the show, where it's like we're still trying to make it in these hostile environments.
I really like the kind of really small touches when you see that big shot of the crater city, because you can see like the walls generating the atmosphere and all that, and how it kind of some of it spills out over the wall out into Mars proper, but also like the roads going into the crater all look like they have like little domes and stuff like that on them, so that they actually have like atmosphere and stuff like that for people driving through. The city itself is very sort of like Hong Kong like.
This episode is Bruce Lee centric.
Very much so.
Yeah, in our movie Rex we'll get into it, but this is so of course it would be Hong Kong adjacent. Even to the point where it's the Bebop, I mean, being an old shipping vessel, I mean, it lands in like a fishing, like in a harbor that you would see in Hong Kong. And man, that shot of it landing into the river is just so visually pleasing.
It's so good. I love the little bits where they show the Bebop like sealing itself up for it to actually land in the water so that the engines don't get flooded with water and all that. That's like, it's so good.
They could have skipped all this. Technically, from a storytelling standpoint, they get the call from the dock, cut to Spike is on the streets. You know, we just see a wide shot of that city. We don't need to see them land. But you get so much visual setting information. You get so much of a feel for the show, and you get a feel for the world, because they're like, you know what, let's just take 15 seconds and just watch the Bebop land. And I'm glad they made that decision. So like we said, we're introduced to Ein, the Welsh Corgi, the data dog, in this episode through a series of mistakes. He is in a briefcase. Again, Sunrise. I guess this is the year of cute things in briefcases, i.e. Outlaw Star. So this got me looking into mascots in anime. So if you don't know, mascots within the terms of anime are cute creatures, and a lot of times it's, why are they there? Or, wow, this creature is talking, even though everyone else is a human. Sometimes it maybe seems out of place, and I appreciate that Ein is very grounded amongst the mascots. But the reason they're there is for money, baby. It's the merchandise. It's to sell you stuff. And we love it. We love mascots. So I polled Noah a little bit on some of the mascots he liked, and I scoured a few top 10 lists. But Noah, are you ready for the tournament of mascots?
Oh, geez. Okay.
I'm taking 8 anime mascots. We're going to do it March Madness style, or Mascot Madness. We're putting them in brackets. I will give you two competitors, and you will tell me who would win. To me, if we're talking about mascots, the criteria should be whether or not you would want them on a keychain or some other small tchotchke in your home or about your person. The first matchup, Ryo-Oki from Tenchi Muyo, the Cabot, which is a half cat, half rabbit. Or Gigi from Kiki's Delivery Service.
Oh, man.
Also, these brackets are definitely going to show our age.
Yes, they are.
And our familiarity with mascots.
So, Ryo-Oki is a Cabot, and depending on... I can't remember if it's like every version of Tenchi, but depending on the version of Tenchi you're watching, Ryo-Oki also turns into a spaceship.
That's true. And a little girl.
And sometimes a big girl.
Yeah. Yeah, Tenchi Muyo was weird now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. But also, Gigi is voiced by Phil Hartman.
Yes. I didn't want to tip the scales, but you were correct.
See, that's what I wanted to make sure. I wanted to make sure I got his name correct because I was blanking for a second there. But yes, he's voiced by Phil Hartman. But also, if you become more mature and more worldly, you don't get to hear him talk anymore.
If you lose your witchy way, which I would argue that we have both lost our witchy way in this life.
Definitely. I will say that I do actually own a Gigi plush, though when I was younger, I definitely tried to get a Ryo-Oki plush when I was way more into Tenchi Muyo back when I was on Toonami. Oh, man.
This game can't last forever.
No, I think I'm going to go with Gigi on this one.
All right, bam. Get out of here, girl spaceship.
Yeah, like, that's really cool, but at the same time, really weird.
All right, next matchup. Another cat attack. Luna from Sailor Moon. Or Pen Pen from Neon Genesis Evangelion. Land versus sea.
Okay, so Luna is going to be on my shit all day. Pen Pen's just going to chill in the fridge. Eat some fish. I think I'm going to go with Pen Pen there.
All right, that was quick.
Yeah, I don't really need somebody nagging me all the time to save the world.
You don't need a cat that's mad at you for taking a nap or eating.
I mean, a cat is going to be mad at me like no matter what.
That's true.
But at least the other cats can't talk at me about why they're mad.
Next bracket. Kerberos from Cardcaptor Sakura and Nine from Cowboy Bebop. Dog versus winged teddy bear.
Doesn't Kerberos turn into like a big wolf thing?
Yeah, so he can turn into, I would say, a lion with wings.
Huh.
I think it's, do you want a talking mascot or just a dog who's smarter than you?
I think I kind of want a dog that's smarter than me, honestly.
All right.
Like, I saw a bit of Cardcaptor Sakura back in the day, but I don't know if I want to deal with all that. I think just having like a corgi that can like hack the internet would be cool.
That knows what buttons to hit to eject himself from a dangerous situation. I get final match for the top 8. Tachikomas from Ghost in the Shell or Pikachu from Pokemon.
Ooh, okay.
The king of the mascots.
King of mascots versus... So, you are aware of what a Tachikoma is, right?
The mechanical the AI robot spiders from Standalone Complex specifically, correct?
Yes. Yeah, they're spider tanks.
Sorry.
Which means they have guns. But Pikachu can also like...
He could carry a gun, if that's what you're interested in.
Well, he has like super thunder abilities. Oh, man.
Do you have to be a Pokemon trainer to have a Pikachu? Do you then have to go on a Pokemon adventure?
Pokemon episode 1, like Pikachu and Ash don't get along. And it takes like Ash nearly dying for Pikachu to be okay with this kid. So I feel like if I suddenly became an owner of a Pikachu, I'd have to go on like some sort of grand adventure so that this Pikachu would respect me.
How do Tachikomas feel about humans?
They're pretty cool with them. They're very much about becoming sapient. Like they'll read books and stuff like that and have like fun adventures. But also you can like ride around inside of them like a car. So, and they can climb walls.
The maintenance.
Oh, I'd have to give them all sorts of natural oil. I really need to get my own car an oil change. So, as much as I love Tachikomas, I might have to go with Pikachu here. That's also a lot less space to take up. Tachikomas are big.
So imagine it's outside your apartment, late at night. It's knocking on your window.
Yeah,
asking questions about God and shit.
They also get like into all sorts of rambunctious adventures if they get outside on their own too. Like they'll go and like have an adventure with like a little girl who's lost her dog.
To be fair, I've never watched Ghost in the Shell standalone complex.
Okay, we'll have to watch that at some point because
season 12.
Man, there's some episodes where it's just about the Tachikomas and them like becoming more human and more sapient. And like learning what death means and stuff.
Boy, oh boy.
Pikachu. Going to go Pikachu.
Okay, Pikachu. All right, we're in the final four. Okay. Gigi versus Pen Pen.
Pen Pen's going to want a lot of like fish and stuff like that. I feel like Gigi, I could get away with just like some regular cat food. Ooh. I think I'm going to go with Gigi still.
All right.
As much as I like Pen Pen, Pen Pen's really cool.
Pen Pen is now goop that has been absorbed to the collective unconscious.
Yep.
All right. Ein versus Pikachu.
Oh, man.
I didn't expect this to be so difficult for you.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm pleasantly surprised.
Okay, here we go. I feel like Pikachu is going to be a lot more demanding of like adventure and stuff like that. I think Ein is going to be much more chill with just staying at home. So I'm going to go with Ein.
Wow. Yeah, all right.
Plus, if you've ever read any of the Pokemon comics, mainly The Electric Tale of Pikachu, a Pikachu will get into your walls and start chewing on your electrical wiring. That's not good.
Yeah, your deposit is gone. All right. The final match for all the marbles. Gigi versus Ein.
Cat versus dogs. I love corgis and I love cats, and a cat that sounds like Phil Hartman, or a dog that can raise Bitcoin. I think, as much as it pains me, I think I'm gonna have to go with Gigi.
What? The upset of the century.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just cats are also so much like lower maintenance.
Well, you know he's not going to talk to you, but maybe.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. Maybe if I get back in touch with my witchy childhood.
I know. If you can make some potions, if you get back into that.
It's real rough, but yeah, I think I'm going to go with Gigi.
All right. That was a close match. Sorry, Vegas. Yeah. But yeah, that was Tournament of Mascots. Gigi from Keys Delivery Service is the mascot supreme, according to this very scientific...
according to this one person.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll never talk about Ein again.
Nope, he's gone forever.
Yeah, he ran off with Edward. That's what happened, right? Yeah.
Spoilers. So I think one like kind of standout thing about this episode are the scientists chasing down Ein, especially the two that are in like the front seat of like their weird like science van.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that way.
Seems that way. They're just so good at being sort of like weird, inept scientists that have like these really weird kind of like personalities to them.
Of all the work they did with the setting, and this is maybe like the 5th or 6th time I've watched this episode in my life, maybe more. It's still a little confusing. I'm like, wait, who are these guys? They're just generic scientists? doing generic illegal research.
Yeah.
It's weird that there were not more in depth with them.
But man, whoever did their performances in the English versions, they knocked it out of the park. The line that gets me every time is when they turn on the dog whistle, and the guy driving just goes, "Is it on? I can't hear it." And the guy in the back tells him that it's a dog whistle. It's above human hearing, and he just very quickly goes, "That's right. I knew that. I was testing you." It's just such a dumb little joke, and the way it's delivered is just so like spot on. It gets me every time.
In the subtitled, I don't think he says I was testing you, but it's the same interaction as like, I can't hear it. It's like, well, I told you, you can't, humans can't hear you. It's like, oh, I remember. That's right. But yeah, it's still giggling at these dummies driving a science van.
Yeah. And then when the one guy, the seems that way guy, tries to capture Ein with like the net gun, the way that he delivers the damn it when he misses, it's just, it gets me. Like, I can't help it.
No, they were a good, just some fly in the ointment of this whole madcap chase to get a dog.
It's such an interesting kind of like third party to throw into it, because it could have very easily just have been Spike and Hakeem like playing cat and mouse with each other trying to get Ein, and this third party just has to kind of show up and throw an extra wrench in the whole thing.
There's a lot of physical comedy going on in this episode. Hakeem, I think the very first scene is him coming out of one of the first scenes is him coming out of the bathroom, and there are three guys trying to stop him, and like he just sort of one hit knocks out everyone. One hit per person. And throughout the episode, he's just punching people. And it's very funny. I think after the commercial break, Hakeem's in the river and there are kids fishing, and he comes out, and the little bobber, is in his afro. He asks the kids what time it is, they say, and then he just punches them out of the way.
Yeah.
And that's the end of this, and like that's the punchline for the scene. He steals a sports car from a wedding, and the groom very politely goes up to him as he's doing it, like, excuse me, what are you? And then just one punch, and then he drives off.
Does the bride call out her husband's name?
No, not in the version I watched. That's a good added joke then.
The English, the moment he gets punched out of the way, you just hear a voice from off screen go, "Harold!"
All the criminals fall off an overpass right in front of the police station. No one dies. No one's like terribly. It's like cartoon hurt.
Yeah.
They have bruises, but like you just see them in the aftermath of it all on big shots. They're getting arrested. Yeah, just what a fun, light episode. And I think it's what they definitely needed this.
It's got more of a buddy cop feel to it with Spike and Jet, where like Jet comes up with like the plan to draw out Hakeem, and then Spike is like, "Oh geez, I gotta go do this lame plan and walk this dog around, even though I hate kids and pets." And Jet is just like, "Yo, just stick to the plan. It'll all be good." And then the dog whistle starts in that whole scene. But
yeah, I'll be away from all the action safely.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of a bunch of animals, do you want to learn about bird fortune telling?
Do I?
I don't have a ton of information on it, but it's so there's Hakeem is still looking for Ein. A fortune teller stops him on the street and attempts to read his fortune, but he does so through a bird. What they probably got it from is Temple Street in Hong Kong at night. There's like a ton of stalls, but there's also stalls with like a bunch of fortune tellers there. And one video I watched, they were interviewing a woman. She was she just did tarot cards, but she was explaining how like it's actually not. She doesn't get a bunch of tourists. Surprisingly, It's like it's like young people, locals. But it's not just there. I guess it happens in Taiwan. There are examples in India, in Mexico City. It's all over. But it's essentially the premise, like it says in the show, they train a bird to get a bunch of cards from a stack and to pull them. And then the person who is in charge of the booth will interpret those. And I think when I saw in Hong Kong, that was it. They're like, just like you saw in the show, it's a bunch of little cards in a deck box that the bird will pull. But that's like, I would be, if I ever went to Hong Kong, I would definitely be interested in doing that. Just for there's a cool novelty to it for sure. And it's also interesting that we have 2 episodes back to back with a little bit of, again, we're in the sci-fi world, but there's like a little bit of spirituality mixed into it.
Yeah, there's like some mysticism kind of going on.
Yeah, I looked at a lot of fortune-telling bird videos. It's cool as hell.
I mean, it sounds really, really neat. Like training a bird to pull cards.
Oh yeah, you saw like in some of them, you saw like the little treat they get. They get a little seed afterwards, so they're earning a living, I guess.
Yeah. So in the Japanese version, the old man complains about getting his money when Hakeem runs off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does Hakeem reply with "I'll pay you when I'm rich"?
Yes, that's like a 1-for-1 translation.
Okay, and then the old man is like, "Not again." That's another good like little comedic bit that gets me.
One of my favorite tracks off, I believe it's on the first Cowboy Bebop OST. It's called Bag Dog No Biscuit. It's the closest ska song we have in the entire series. And I just want to say, just go listen to it. It's a banger. They play it throughout. It fits so well throughout this entire dog whistle chase where all the animals are going nuts. Everyone is finally cornered Ein and everyone's going after him. Mm-hmm. But it's jumpy and it's just the right lighthearted tone to this whole thing.
Yeah.
I love ska. I believe you're also a skasman.
Yes. I'm a rude boy.
Yeah. I'm part of the Two-Tone Army.
The only other like really kind of big song that really jumps out at me, other than, of course, Bad Dog, No Biscuit, and American Money, is Want It All Back, which is the first song you get for the chase between Spike and Hakeem. It's the song that happens when they first chase them out of the pet shop. And that actually has like full lyrics and everything by Ma Yamane, who is the female vocals in a lot of the songs.
There's not too much of a music change from this and the first episode, but it's mainly I guess it'd be tonal or feeling wise. They pep it up as they should.
This episode, like I mentioned earlier, is much more lighthearted madcap, so the music kind of fits that a bit more, while still staying in sort of the jazzy house style of the show.
We should probably do this. So, like, overall thoughts for the episode.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I like the episode. Coming from the first episode into this one, it's much more lighthearted, and it kind of gives you how the show is going to be kind of changing its moods all over the place. So it's not just going to be all super dramatic all the time. You're going to get episodes that are going to be lighthearted and kind of ease some of that pressure that you get from some of the more dramatic episodes, especially ones where we dive into Spike's past and all that.
Yeah, I really like this episode. It's fun. I am eager to get the full cast on this ship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but with that, let's talk about the ending theme.
The Real Folk Blues is the closing theme by Seatbelts. The vocals are Maya Mane. It is the closing song for all but 2 of the episodes, Jupiter Jazz Part 2 and Real Folk Blues Part 2. Though the final song for Real Folk Blues Part 2 is the same music but different lyrics. And I want to say that is called See You Space Cowboy is the actual final song. But yeah, it's just this really bluesy kind of song. And you get these sort of blued sepia, like monotone kind of shots of where clearly Spike before his like air quotes death and rebirth. And you kind of get to see like his relationship with two of the characters that you kind of learn more about later in the show. You also get to see Spike in like jeans and like a bomber jacket and stuff. It's really interesting seeing some of the different outfits.
It's him just kind of enjoying a rainy day.
I mean, there's obviously kind of shots leading up to that prologue scene. Like you see him buying the roses. He's in like the trench coat. You see him passed out in front of Julia's place at one point. And there's also a shot where you see somebody from the back and you see Spike and Julia in the background. It has this confrontational kind of feel to it.
Yeah, because I believe that shot is the person in the foreground is on stairs, so you're looking down.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain's like, who is this person? Clearly, this is bad news, and that that I've missed certainly in multiple viewings because you're just kind of enjoying the song. It's not overly sad. It's just subtle enough to where it like the blues. The blues isn't. I'm weeping. I'm just bummed, man. It's just there's just this melancholy flavor to all of it.
Yeah, and like the lyrics are like, "Hoof, peak blues." Just very much about like I have this deep sort of loneliness or sadness that hopefully I can live with or I can heal from. But it's very much something that has been a part of me, kind of thing.
Well, I'm getting depressed. We should move on.
I think, real quick, the sort of really kinetic nature of the opening helps get excited for the episode that you're about to watch. And then the really sort of slow, bluesy nature of Real Folk Blues definitely kind of helps you come down from the episode. I think that's a really neat kind of like arc you can make.
I mean, we've all seen the meme, anime opening versus anime ending.
Mm-hmm.
Anime endings don't make any fucking sense sometimes. They're just like sad and down for no reason. This is like, no, this fits in perfectly. So for this week's movie recommendations, I want to talk about one, and then I want to recommend one. So there's a certain movie and certain person that is so influential on this episode, and that's Bruce Lee, as we've mentioned before. And specifically, the movie, ? Game of Death, which kind of came out in 1978 and was kind of directed by Bruce Lee. Let me explain. So Game of Death is actually an incomplete film. This is the film that Bruce Lee died on while he was making it. It features a scene where he fights Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who is like the obvious influence for Hakeem Abdul from the height, from the hair.
His character in that movie is named Hakeem.
Well, yeah. Even more, Your Honor. Clearly, they just stole this character. But the main plot is that Bruce Lee is forced to fight up a pagoda. So each floor has different opponents, each of the steps. And the weird thing about this is he was shooting this before he got big. And like sort of the if I'm not mistaken, a lot of the tragedy of Bruce Lee's life and his death is that it happened before all these movies came out and came to the forefront. He didn't get to enjoy the celebrity he got later on. So after his death, they sat on this footage for a while. Robert Klaus, who was the director of Enter the Dragon, they would through reshoots and stand-ins. Like there's a lot of shots of Bruce Lee there's a guy that kind of looks like him in a wig and sunglasses, and he's not talking. They did all this to release a version, which was 5 years after Lee's death and was produced by Golden Harvest. And it's like, please don't watch that. Well, watch clips. Game of Death is not good.
No.
For the reasons I've just given. If you're new to Bruce Lee, definitely Enter the Dragon. Start with Enter the Dragon, go from there. Game of Death is watch clips. The documentary Bruce Lee, A Warrior's Journey, which came out in 2000, contains some other original footage that was not seen in the version that was released in 78. It's cool that they took this movie with such a sordid history and just, a death that's involved with it. And they took these elements and were able to reinterpret it into something very good. But the movie, so I can't recommend Game of Death, but I can recommend something, well, I guess now for something completely different. So before I watched it, I thought my movie recommendation was going to be a screwball comedy, which was a style of film, comedies in the 30s, fast-paced dialogue. There were mistaken identities. Most of those were a play on romantic comedies and sort of the power dynamics between the sexes. So I'm like, well, this ain't it. But what this episode is a farce. So, for example, it's like Mel Brooks movies, Charlie Chaplin, these comedies that the characters are exaggerated, the situations are absurd or ridiculous. It's not cynical. There's a ton of physical comedy, harmless violence, mistaken identities. It's fast-paced action. So I'm like, as I'm looking into this, I'm like, yeah, this is what this episode is. It is a farce of a comedy. And one that I enjoy that I don't think people probably watched a lot is Monty Python's Life of Brian, 1979, directed by Terry Jones. He's given sole director credit, I believe in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, I believe he shares it with Terry Gilliam. But Terry Jones is credited as sole director on this, which is especially sad because, to bring up death again, I guess, he passed away last year. It's Monty Python's third movie. It's about Brian, who was born in the manger next to Jesus and is mistaken for the Messiah. And I know Monty Python, I think to people our age, that's like childhood. I feel like we had the same media trajectory in some things.
My parents showed me Holy Grail when I was in like my early teens, preteens kind of era, and then I watched a lot of Flying Circus throughout my teens.
A friend showed me the tape in like middle school, and it's sort of, I think, when we both run around in gaming circles, and that's definitely, if you're near D&D during a certain point in the 90s and 80s, you're very aware with Monty Python's Holy Grail. I would say if you've never seen Monty Python, I would recommend watching Holy Grail. I think that's on Netflix now, in the States at least. Maybe looking up some of their sketches. But if you've already dipped into that and you're looking for more, Life of Brian is a good choice, I think. And a fun farce of mistaken identities. Are there dogs? I don't even know if there might not be dogs in it. Thank you so much for listening. Again, we are a new baby podcast. If you like what we do and you want to support us, please share the podcast with others that you think would enjoy it. You can write to us at thinkingtoohardpod@gmail.com. That's thinkingtoohardpod@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at thinkinganime. And again, thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with Session 3, Honky Tonk Woman. I am Aaron.
I am Noah.
And we've been thinking too hard.